Hello everyone. This video is part of YouTube lecture series initiated by Zoological Society of Assam. Myself Ashish Sarkar presenting life cycle and pathogenicity of Fasciola hepatica. Fasciola is a parasite of herbivorous mammals and humans. The disease caused by Digenean trematodes of the genus Fasciola that mainly affects the liver is called fascioliasis. It belongs to the group of foodborne trematode infection and is a zoonosis, meaning an animal infection that may be transmitted to humans. Before going deep into the explanation, let us know about the learning outcomes of the video. At the end of the video, we will have knowledge about history, geographical distribution, habitat, and reproductive systems of Fasciola hepatica. The life cycle and pathogenicity of Fasciola hepatica will also be clear. Fasciola hepatica was the first trematode that was discovered more than 600 years ago in 1379 by Jehan de Bry. It was named by Linnaeus in 1758. Leuckart and Thomas worked out the complete life cycle of the fluke. Senetzin in 1914 confirmed route of migration of Fasciola hepatica to the liver. Pantelauris in 1965, Kendall in 1965-1970, and Bore in 1969 reviewed the biology of this parasite. Fasciola hepatica is cosmopolitan in distribution. Human infections with Fasciola hepatica are found in areas where sheep and cattle are raised and where humans consume raw watercress. The largest number of infections have been reported from Bolivia, Ecuador, France, and Portugal. In India, few cases have been reported from North India and northeastern part of India, including Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Assam. Fasciola gigantica is more prevalent in India than Fasciola hepatica. Fasciola hepatica is more common in localities with low-lying wet places which provide suitable environment for its intermediate host, a snail. It inhabits the larger bile ducts in the liver of sheep and goats. It may also occur in some other mammals like cattle, horses, dogs, and even man. Its larva lives in freshwater snails. Let us discuss the male reproductive system of Fasciola hepatica. Fasciola hepatica is hermaphrodite. The female and male genital ducts open into a common chamber called genital atrium. The male reproductive system comprises of a pair of testes, whose epithelial lining gives rise to sperms. Vas differentia are the narrow slender ducts arising from the testes. They are two in number and these two run side by side anteriorly up to the level of acetabulum. At the acetabulum and vas differentia unite and form a pear-shaped seminal vesicle which stores sperms. Ejaculatory duct is a narrow, twisted tube arising from the seminal vesicle. The ejaculatory duct extends forward and enters the irreversible copulatory organ called cirrus. The female reproductive system of Fasciola hepatica has an ovary, which is a solitary, highly branched and tubular structure. It lies anterior to the testis. Oviduct is the gathering of all branches of the ovary. The oviduct extends backwards to join the median vitelline duct to form the uterus. Uterus contains large number of capsules with fertilized eggs. A short muscular copulatory tube called Laurer's canal arises from the oviduct. This canal serves as vagina during copulation. Vitelline glands occur as clusters of follicles along the entire length of the body. Follicles on each side are connected by fine ductules, and these ductules are finally connected to the vitelline duct. These vitellaria produce special yolk cells or vitelline gland cells. These cells contain abundant yolk for the nourishment of the embryo and also has numerous shell globules which form eggshells. Mehalis glands are also known as the shell glands. but as per the name, they do not have any role in the formation of shell. These are the clusters of unicellular glands present at the junction of oviduct, median vitelline duct, and uterus. The secretions of these glands help in lubricating the uterus for smooth passage of eggs and in activating the sperms. Fasciola hepatica occupies a prominent place in parasitology because its life cycle was the first among digenetic nematodes to be completely worked out, and that achievement has been the inspiration for all subsequent investigations on life histories. Fasciola hepatica passes its life cycle in one definitive host and two intermediate hosts. Sheep, goat, and man are the definitive host, whereas snails of genus Limni are first intermediate host, and aquatic plants where encystment occurs are second intermediate host. The definitive hosts, that are sheep and man, get infection by ingestion of Metacercaria encysted on aquatic vegetation. Adult worm lives in the biliary passage of sheep or man. Eggs are laid in the biliary passages and are shed in the feces. The embryo matures in water in about 10 days and the miracidium escapes. It penetrates the tissues of first intermediate host snails of the genus Limni. The complete life cycle of Fasciola hepatica can be discussed in 5 phases. Number 1. Passage of eggs from the host to the outside environment and their subsequent development. Second one is hatching of Miracidia and penetration of the intermediate snail host. Number 3. Development and multiplication of the parasites inside the snail. Number 4. Emergence of the Cercaria from the snails and their encystment. Last one is ingestion of infective Metacercariae by the final hosts and the development of adult worms. Presence of sufficient moisture and a suitable temperature are the two most important factors which influence the successful completion of the cycle. Let's discuss the phases one by one. The Metacercaria mature into adult worms in the definitive host in about 9 weeks of infection. Inside the hepatic duct, the fluke starts laying unembryonated eggs, which come back to the intestine and are excreted in the feces. This phase is discussed in two groups: fertilization and capsule formation, and laying and liberation from feces. The first category is fertilization and capsule formation. Both cross and self-fertilization occur. In cross-fertilization, two worms copulate. One worm inserts its penis into the Lauder's canal of the other and sheds sperms into the oviduct. In self-fertilization, sperms pass from the ejaculatory duct into the uterus of the same worm. Capsule formation occurs in the terminal part of the oviduct. The zygote gets surrounded by yolk cells coming from the vitelline glands by way of various vitelline ducts. The yolk cells emit their shell-forming droplets which coalesce and harden with the assistance of secretion of Mehaly's gland to form an oval, brownish, resistant shell with a lid or operculum on one side. Hardening of the coalesced droplets into a shell involves the tanning of the protein or scleroprotein present in the droplets by quinone. Capsules are formed throughout the year and one worm may produce about 5 lakhs capsules. Second category is laying of eggs and their liberation in feces. Eggs in capsules are passed from the uterus of liver fluke through the genital pore into the bile ducts of the host. From here they are carried by the bile into the duodenum, wherefrom they finally escape out of the feces. Temperature, humidity, and oxygen tension are known to influence embryonation. Although partial development of egg can occur while still inside wet feces, complete development and hatching will only occur after the egg has been liberated from the feces and get heavy rain, the deposition of feces in water, and the trampling action of animals. The inhibitory effect of feces is likely to be caused by a number of factors. Example, competition for oxygen by microorganisms or the presence of toxic substances. Egg viability decreases with increasing dryness. Second phase of the life cycle of Fasciola hepatica is hatching of Miracidium and its penetration into snail. The eggs further develop in water in 1 to 2 weeks to release Miracidium larva, which then infects the snail of genus Limni, the intermediate host. This phase is again divided into two groups. First group is early development and hatching of eggs, and the second group is survival of Miracidium and its penetration into snail host. First group is early development and hatching of the egg. First cleavage of the zygote produces a small propagatory cell and a slightly larger somatic cell. The somatic cell divides repeatedly to form the ectoderm of the embryo. The propagatory cell divides repeatedly, forming at each division one propagatory cell and one somatic cell. The somatic cells, by further division, form the mesoderm and endoderm of the embryo. The propagatory cell passes into the posterior part of the embryo and gives rise to a number of germ cells. In about 2 weeks, the embryo changes into the first larval form called the Miracidium. Wilson in 1968 suggested that the Miracidium is stimulated into activity by light, and this leads to an alteration in the permeability of the membrane at opercular end of the egg. Hydration of this material following a change in permeability of the enclosing membrane results in the swelling of the cushion, and the internal pressure forces the operculum open, causing expulsion of the Miracidium. Let us discuss characters of Miracidium larva. Miracidium is an oval, elongated, ciliated and free-swimming larva. Its anterior end produces apical papilla, which opens the apical gland and penetration gland. The body is covered with hexagonal plates arranged in 5 rows. Beneath the epidermis, an outer circular fiber layer and inner longitudinal fiber layer form subepidermal musculature. The last layer is subepithelium. Inside the body, there is a pair of protonephridia. Each protonephridia is with 2 flame cells. A brain is present below epidermal plates, above which 2 eye spots are there. In the next slide, we will discuss the clear structure of Miracidium larva. In this image, we have in the left side external structure of Miracidium larva and in the right hand side internal structure of the Miracidium larva. In the external structure, the whole body has been observed covered with cilia. Epidermal plates are arranged in 5 rows are also clear. In the internal structure, we can clearly see apical papilla along with apical gland, brain, eye spots which are also visible in the external structure, and also penetration gland, flame cells, muscle layer, germ balls, subepithelium are clearly seen. Second group is survival of Miracidium and its penetration into host snail. Once hatched from the egg, the Miracidium does not feed, becomes active, immediately starts to swim at great speed. It swims with the help of cilia, seeking an intermediate host which is a fresh water snail, generally of the genus Limni. The need to find a suitable host is an urgent one. For those Miracidium failing to do so generally die within 24 hours. To do so, Miracidium do host habitat selection, random movement in host habitat and host finding using tactic mechanism. Infectivity of Miracidium is independent of pH but dependent on water temperature. At or below 5 degrees Celsius, the Miracidium is not infective, regardless of the exposure time. Optimum temperature is in the range of 15 to 26 degrees Celsius. The penetration process involves a mechanical boring action by the miracidial anterior papilla and is also likely to be facilitated by the secretion of proteolytic enzymes. The third phase of the life cycle is development and multiplication inside the snail. One of the most favorable factors contributing to the successful completion of the life cycle and thus the propagation of the liver fluke is parthenogenetic multiplication within the snail. In the image, we can clearly see the digestive gland, which is commonly known as liver of snail, is the place of larval stage growth. The liver is closer to the spirals of the shell. The first step of the third phase of life cycle is transformation from miracidium to sporocyst larva. By gradual cytolysis, the miracidium reaches the pulmonary sac of the intermediate host with the help of penetration gland. Miracidium loses its cilia while penetrating the snail and transforms into sporocyst. Sporocyst has a thin cuticle below which membrane with microvilli lies. Beneath it, circular muscles, longitudinal muscles, and mesenchyme cells are present. Sporocyst also has two nephridia. Each nephridia is with two flame cells. Sporocyst is a living cyst. Cilia, cephalic gland are lost. Rudiments of eye spots are present. The internal cavity contains germ cells. In the next slide, we will have a clear picture of sporocyst larva. In this image, we can clearly see the outermost cuticle of sporocyst, beneath which muscle layer has been observed. Two protonephridia along with a total of 4 flame cells have been observed. Germ cells, young radia, older radia are also observed. Beneath the muscle layer, subepithelium layer is there. The second step of the third phase is transformation from sporocyst to radia larva. Once inside the snail, the young sporocyst migrates via the blood vessels or lymph channels, primarily to the digestive gland, which is situated in the upper spirals of the shell. Here, the sporocyst begins to grow, consisting initially of a minute ball of tightly packed germinal cells in which remnants of the eye spots can be seen. Each germinal cell gives rise to a ball of new germinal cells, from which the next larval stages, the radii, develop. Ultimately, the sporocyst, distended by radii, ruptures, liberating the radii into the digestive gland. Let us discuss the characters of radia larva. In the ventral side of the larva, two lappets or procruscula are found. The body wall consists of cuticle, mesenchyme, and muscles. Near the anterior end, ring-like collar is observed for locomotion, beneath which birth pore is found. Radia has mouth, pharynx with pharyngeal glands and intestine. A pair of nephridiophore is observed, each with two flame cells. The active movement of radii in liver of snail causes damage, even death of snail, although liver shows great power of regeneration. In this clear picture of radia larva, we can see mouth, pharynx with pharyngeal gland and intestine. A ring-like collar is observed in the image, near which birth pore is also observed. Cercaria are found growing inside the radia larva. The uppermost layer is the cuticle, beneath which epithelial cells are also there. Protonephridia are still here like earlier stages. In the ventral side, two lappets or procruscula are observed. Body cavity contains germ balls. The third step is transformation from radia to Cercaria larva. The body of radia contains numerous germinal cells, which, like those in the sporocyst, multiply to form germinal balls from which the final larval stage, the Cercaria, is produced. The body of Cercaria is oval with a long tail like tadpole covered with spines. It has mouth, pharynx, esophagus, and intestine. Mouth is surrounded by oral sucker. A ventral sucker or acetabulum is present. There are many phlegm cells. The excretory ducts unite to form excretory pore at the base of tail. Cystogenous glands are beneath the body wall which form cyst in metacercaria. When cercariae are developed fully, they escape from radii through the birth pore. After the snail infection with Miracidium, it takes 4 to 7 weeks to liberate cercaria. Different larval stages may, however, coexist in a single snail. In this image of Cercaria larva, we can clearly see the mouth which is surrounded by oral sucker, a muscular pharynx and a bifurcated intestine. There are many phlegm cells. Cystogenous glands are also visible. A ventral sucker or acetabulum is also observed. Body cavity contains germ cells. A tadpole-like tail has been observed clearly. The fourth phase of the life cycle is emergence of Cercaria from snail and its encysment. For a short time after they have emerged from the snail, the Cercariae swim freely in water. They are very active and frequently change direction both horizontally and vertically, although tending to keep near to the surface rather than going down into deeper water. This phase is discussed as encystment phase and structure of Metacercaria larva. During a few minutes to 2 hours after emergence, the Cercaria settles on various objects, including blades of grass, and attaches by means of ventral sucker. Encystment may also take place upon the surface of water. Once attached, the body contracts inwards, releasing the outer layer of the cyst, which has been preformed. Simultaneously, embryonic epithelium and outer layer is laid down. The tail separates from the body. The cyst is white when laid and is almost immediately infective to the definitive host. After a day or two, the cyst gradually becomes yellow in color due to the presence of quinine and darkens as it hardens. Now we have structure of Metacercaria larva. It is the juvenile replica of adult. Cercarial structures like mucoid glands, eye spots are lost. Gonads develop but non-functional. Complex cyst wall has two layers. Outer cyst has two layers of tanned protein and mucoprotein respectively. Inner cyst has a complex mucopolysaccharide layer subdivided into three and an additional layer, layer 4, of laminated or keratinized protein. A region of layer 4 is specialized to form the ventral plug. The outer cyst wall probably acts as a barrier against bacterial and fungal infections and is also important for attachment to the substrate, normally grass. Strong adhesion to the grass for long periods is important for the survival of Metacercariae and the infection of the final host. Encysted Metacercariae have a high resistance to low temperature. It can withstand the usual winter condition. Cyst provides protection against short periods of desiccation. In this clear image of Metacercaria larva, we can see mouth which is surrounded by oral sucker, pharynx, a bifurcated intestine, an acetabulum, excretory canal, phlegm cells, and all these structures are covered by a thick cyst wall which is there to protect the Metacercaria larva from adverse condition. The final phase of the life cycle, which is very much important, that is ingestion of infective Metacercariae. The encysted Cercaria or Metacercaria, when taken up by the definitive host with food or drink, reaches duodenum. Within an hour of infection, Metacercariae begin to exist in the small intestine. Within 2 hours following infection, these have bored through the wall of intestine and can be found in the abdominal cavity en route to the liver. However, before such migration can start, the liver fluke has to free itself from its cyst. This phase is again broadly studied under two categories: accestation and migration to the liver. Accestation occurs in the small intestine of the host. There are basically two phases of accestation: a passive activation phase followed by an active emergence phase. Activation is believed to occur in the stomach or rumen and is a prerequisite to emergence. Conditions which stimulate activation in vitro are high partial pressure of carbon dioxide, temperature about 39 degrees Celsius, and reducing conditions. During activation, the metacarcharia rotate vigorously for a while before the quiescence phase, during which time the predominant activity appears to be the emptying of their cecal contents. It appears that these cecal contents released by metacarcharia contain secretions which affect the inner cyst wall, thus aiding emergence. The emergence phase is probably triggered by bile, and its presence may activate an enzyme secreted by the parasite, inducing muscular movements of the young fluke. After excitation, metacarcharia bore through intestinal wall, damaging epithelial cells, connective tissue, muscle fiber. Once they reach peritoneal tissue, they browse on any tissue they encounter. Evidence is there that the juveniles migrate to liver responding some stimulus. They damage hepatocytes, causing fibrosis. 8 weeks after infection, eggs are found in bile duct. Here we can see a short representation of whole life cycle of Fasciola hepatica. We can see the cycle is divided into two halves. One half belongs to sheep and the other half belongs to snail. Sheep, when eat the metacarcharia along with grasses, this metacarcharia develops into adult fasciola in their liver, and in the bile duct they copulate to produce encysted miracidium or capsules. Along with feces of the sheep, these capsules come out and get deposited on water. In water, this miracidium comes out of the encysted miracidium, and this miracidium finally gets its host as a snail. Inside its body, sporocyst larva is formed. This sporocyst larva, when reach the liver of the snail, transform into radia larva, then finally to cercaria larva. When proper time comes, this cercaria larva encyst itself, and we get the formation of metacarcharia larva, which is deposited on the grasses. And when the sheep feeds on these grasses along with the food, this metacarcharia again enters into their body, and in this way the life cycle continues. Let's have a discussion on pathogenicity of Fasciola hepatica. The disease caused by Fasciola hepatica is known as fascioliasis. After ingestion of larvae with food and water, a symptomless incubation period lasts for 3 months, depending upon the number of ingested metacarchariae and immune status of the host. The parasite causes a lot of damage to their definitive host, that is, sheep. Their localization in biliary passage cause extensive damage to the liver tissue, and in heavy infection may lead to cirrhosis. Obstructive jaundice may cause due to the blockage of biliary passage. The liver ultimately becomes rotten. So this disease is known as liver rot. The disease manifests itself in two forms, as acute hepatic phase and chronic biliary phase. Acute hepatic phase. While migrating to peritoneal cavity, no significant damage occurs, but necrotic lesion, which is heavily infiltrated with eosinophils, is formed in liver parenchyma by young flukes. This phase is known as hepatic phase. Clinical features are epigastric pain, fever, diarrhea, jaundice, urticaria, hepatosplenomegaly ascites containing WBCs. Chronic biliary phase. This phase of fascioliasis includes occurrence of larvae in bile duct and its development into adult. Symptoms may be biliary colic, epigastric pain, jaundice, nausea. Chronic infection may take months or years. Larvae may be lodged in lungs, brain, subcutaneous tissue, urinogenital tract. Ingestion of raw liver of infected sheep results in halzone, meaning suffocation. While ingestion, the larvae may attach to pharyngeal mucosa, leading to acute dysphagia, deafness, or maybe asphyxiation. It is common in parts of Middle East and North Africa where raw liver ingestion is practiced. Here are the references of the presentation and suggested readings for the student community. Maximum information in this presentation has been taken from the book Non-Chordates Protists to Pseudocoelomates by Manideep Raj. Thank you for being here till the last. If you have any feedback, please contact me. My email ID has been given here. Thank you very much once again.